We are live. Hi, Amanda. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us for our first official interview in the Science and Magic of the Human-Animal Bond interview series. My name is Diane Rose Solomon. I will be your host today and for all future interviews that we do. I am the founder of Animal Magic Films and this series as well. So please welcome my guest, Amanda Hessel. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you.
It's so great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
We met about 5 or 6 years ago originally at the Women in the Pet Industry Network conference.
Yeah.
I don't remember which year it was, but you won the Entrepreneur of the Year at the conference.
Right.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
And that was for your role in the company, the Pet Tutor company. Smart Animal Training Systems is the company, and the Pet Tutor is the product, right?
Right.
And I'll read a little bit from your bio.
Okay.
Animals have played an important role through Amanda's life, and her deep affection for dogs inspired her to volunteer for a nonprofit service dog organization and poodle rescue. The training she received as a volunteer convinced her that positive reinforcement training for animals is the best and most humane method for helping animals learn. So we'll talk a little bit about the Pet Tutor in a bit because I'm fascinated by it and I want to learn a bit more. But what inspired you to get involved with the service dog organization and also with poodle rescue? And that's kind of two questions. So feel free to start wherever you want to go.
Oh, sure. I had always loved the breed, the poodle breed. And so I was sort of in the market for another pet. And I found out there was a poodle rescue. And I thought, well, I'll spend some time and I would go over there. And I just fell more deeply in love with the breed. And so, I think if people can go rescue first, that's always my my go-to. And the service dog, a friend was doing it for the a prison program where the offenders were training the dogs, and then volunteers on the outside would go, train with them, and on the outside. So I thought, well, that's really fascinating. And so I went down that path, and it was really meaningful, and I learned a lot.
And so how does it work, the volunteering element of the service dog program? What is your role in all of that?
Okay, so I'm not currently doing it, but I have in the past. So what happens is you go to the prison and you pick up the dog, and you take the dog in your home for about 3 weeks. It's called a furlough. And you go out into the universe with them, and you go to pick up the kids at school and the orthodontist, and everywhere the dog goes with you and is learning to be in that role. And so you're also confirming what they already know, and you're reinforcing that everywhere you go. And so the offenders tell you a list of all the things they've been trained to do. And so where they are in the process. And then the next time you get a different dog, and it just goes on. And it takes 2 years for a dog to become a service dog, to graduate. Wow. Yeah.
So you're that point in the process once they've come out of the training process
No, they go back and forth for 2 years. And so I would have a dog for 3 weeks, and then they go back in for another 3 weeks. It's a little different right now, I'm sure, for COVID. Yeah. But my business partner in the Pet Tutor, he is still very active in the program. And so there's almost always a service dog in training in the office.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of different ways that animals help people and service animals help people. But how does this organization specifically help people? I mean, what do you know about how it helps people?
Oh, well, it's wow. It's a big, a lot of different avenues that it can go. But for the offender, they are part of a very large process where they learn many, many roles, not just the dog trainer, because the dog is with them 24/7 when they're in the facility, and they live in their cell with them. And so they're learning they interview for positions. They might interview to be in charge of all the leashes and the collars or the food. And they learn to write resumes and do interviews. And so it isn't just about the training. And then they work with the volunteers, and then they kind of teach us what they're teaching the dogs. And so they see the value of positive reinforcement. And everybody knows there's not a human on this earth that would prefer positive reinforcement from a friend or a
Of course.
partner. So
of course. They want that for the dogs too.
Yep. And so, and the dogs just, I don't know, it's a softening, it's that bond between people, no matter why they're there or what's going on. You just have that bridge between you.
That's really
cool. And then for the volunteers, they're I guess the prison wasn't a place I ever expected to find myself. And I thought it was really awesome that mainly the ladies that I worked with, but there are men too, but they have a choice what they do with their time. They could do nothing if they wanted to.
Right.
And here they are, they're giving back, and it's very hard on them when they take a dog they've spent 2 years on, and they graduate it to the dog's person. And but it really is a developing kind of process. And then the dogs, when you take them out into the world and people see that they're being trained for service, it's always an opportunity to help educate people, about how you should interact with a service dog, or why people would have a service dog. And it's not, it's never just one thing the organization does. There are many prongs to it.
That's great. And so are these service dogs trained to help what kinds of challenges people are having? Physical challenges, emotional challenges? What kind of things do they do at the end?
Right. So they're probably all of that, but they have for soldiers, for PTSD. They have dogs for usually children that are on the autistic spectrum. They have wheelchair assist dogs, and some diabetic alert.
Wow. So really it runs the gamut.
Yep.
It runs the gamut. That's amazing. And I also love that you started in rescue, and, because I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of breeds have rescues, especially poodles, Right.
You don't see them very often in a shelter because I have found that the people that are involved in the breeding are often pretty protective of the breed, and they want to make sure they get properly rehomed. And you can't say that about every breed, but they.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So let's switch gears.
Okay.
I'm going to try putting in a headset. Hang on 1 second, because I don't want to be echo.
Okay.
Okay, hopefully that's a little better. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. Wonderful.
Okay, good. Okay.
Tell me about Pet Tutor. How did you get involved? How long ago did this get started? And what's been your role? And tell us a little bit about what a Pet Tutor is.
Okay, sure. So like I said, my business partner, he is still involved with the service dogs. And so he was a volunteer, and I heard a rumor that he was working on a project involving positive reinforcement and technology. And I kind of love both those things, and dogs. And so I just kind of went to him and plead my case and said, hey, can I be involved, or what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so I got involved. It's been about 7 years, I think.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And what does the Pet Tutor do? I know what it looks like, but can you explain a little bit what it does?
Yeah. So it's a fabulous tool that gets into people's hands because it has a little smart clicker, or you can use an app on your phone, and it's a feeder or a treat dispenser, and you put their food or a little bit of a high value treat in it. And when you push the button, when they're doing what you want or what you love, and you reinforce that. For instance, if you wanted to train them to stay on their bed while someone came to the front door, you might put the Pet Tutor on their mat with them. And as you're going to the front door, you're pushing the button, and they're like, ooh, I'm really torn because I love to accost people at the front door, but I really want to stay on my mat and be rewarded for that. And so you can start it's a communication tool. I'm telling you, they completely understand. She loves what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep doing that because she keeps loving on me with this food. So yeah, it's a beautiful tool, and it works in amazing. There's no species, I think, that I've seen that it wouldn't work with.
That's so cool. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking about my 11-year-old dogs, and I'm wondering is it too late for them?
Well, I'll tell you what, I have the 4 dogs, and one of my standard poodles, she's 10, maybe 11. And man, she held her position. She is the only one that made it into the office, and she's down here, right here, sleeping by the, she's up, she caught up on the couch, but when I push that button, she goes right down there, and she knows that we might be working with some training. And so she's, no, never too old.
Never too old.
I can't speak to husbands, men, or anything like that, but yeah, you can teach dogs nutrition.
All right, this might be in my future, and my dog. I'm talking to you guys right now.
Yeah.
Just know this. We might not be running to the door every time somebody walks by anymore.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy making, especially now that we're both working from home.
At home, that's the new thing, and there's a lot of games and things we play with the pet tutor that help keep dogs with their brain active and keep them stimulated and burn some energy.
That's great. I'm going to shift and tell this crazy story, the small world story that happened yesterday. And I want you to fill in the blanks because it's just totally crazy.
Sure.
It's not that crazy, I guess, but to me it was crazy. Like, oh my goodness. So one of the stories, so if whoever subscribes to my newsletter and has been following along with my blog is aware that I'm making a feature film about the human-animal bond. And one of the stories that I'm telling is about a girl in Florida who's got an epilepsy diagnosis. I'm still hearing that echo. I hope it's not too bad. But anyway, epilepsy diagnosis, and she's waiting to get a service dog. And long story short, her dog is at a place right now called Medical Mutts, getting like the really nitty-gritty training of scenting a seizure. And they just did some research last year to confirm that dogs can actually detect a seizure, which is remarkable. And the woman, Jennifer, who runs this organization, sent me some information yesterday, including a video showing the dogs doing the scenting, like they'd already learned how to do it, and they get the reward from a pet tutor. And I'm like, no way. And I emailed her and I said, do you know Amanda Hessel? Do they know that, and oh yeah, we work together on this. We're friends. And I just thought it was such a small world thing that I'm speaking to these people about for my film, because I'm learning all about this as I'm going. And sure enough, they use the pet tutor, and I was speaking to you today. So I just thought it was just crazy small world.
Yeah, she was originally with the first service dog program I was with. And she was their director, and she's probably the most instrumental person in teaching me about positive reinforcement. So
she's remarkable, and the work that she's doing is amazing. And I hope to see a lot more of it in the future. I think we will, because it's just going to grow, I think.
And what you should know about her organization is that she takes shelter dogs for the most part, and will take each one and kind of assess them and work with them for a few weeks to see if they have potential to be a service dog. And here's the beautiful part. If they don't, when they go back, they have been taught just the most basic, wonderful things that every family wants their dog to know. And these dogs go back and they're highly adoptable. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. It's a win-win for everybody. The shelter dogs and the people get at least a decently trained dog, even if they're not meant for service work. That's kind of great.
Right.
So do you have a favorite story about your work, either volunteer or, business work? Do you have a favorite story?
Ooh, yeah. Oh, gosh. Okay. So one of the rare things that I was able to do that I think not many people have done is, first of all, I'm around the most highly educated, you name it, in the training world. They are just fabulous trainers. And so I get to be around them. But I was at a zoo, and they were interested in the pet tutor for pandas.
Wow.
And so I got to go in the back from the rear entrance, we were talking about where they potentially would, and they were going to put like a dried cherry in it because they love dried cherries.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to work with some positive reinforcement, and they do a lot of it already. And so I was, like right there, and I said, "What's going on with this one?" And this is a male and a female. And she says, "Well, she would like to smell your hair."
Oh,
She loves to smell hair. And so she goes, "Just kind of lean down a little bit." And so I did. And she goes, "Oh, yeah."
Wow, you've had your hair smelled by a panda. I don't know anybody else who can say that.
Yeah. And just real quick, and the service dog part is, there was a young man that went to one of the universities nearby here, and he was always in the emergency room, just constantly with his diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And so they recommended that he get a service dog that was diabetic alert. So he wasn't a fan of dogs, and he was using I believe it's the walking canes and wheelchair and so forth. And so anyway, he said, "Well, he's not sleeping in my bed because I just don't care for that." So anyway, he came back about a month later, and he's like, "Okay, so he's in my bed." And he said, "The best thing isn't that I'm not going to the emergency room hardly at all anymore. That's not the best thing. The best thing is that he's become this conduit or bridge to friendships for me, because it was hard for people to approach me, just because there's the stigma or the wheelchair or the whatever." And he said, every time I go out to walk my dog, there was this common bond that people would just want to talk about the dog. And before you know it, he says, "I've made amazing friends already. And I'm stronger because I kept taking the dog out to go for a walk, and it's made me stronger, and I'm using my walking canes less." And he says, "Gosh, I can't think of anything that's not wonderful about it." So
that's amazing. I love how it's so far reaching that there's this main intention, and then there's all these other wonderful bonuses on the side.
And of course, the college students get to decompress a little bit by petting on a lovely dog and chatting with his owner. And so that's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
It's a win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win.
So many wins.
Yep.
How does your work with Pet Tutor help our connection to animals and to each other?
Well, like I said before, it really is a communication tool, because we're always wondering, how can I get this dog to understand? And I want to be compassionate about it. Not that I haven't raised my voice or gone a little, but you want to do it in a way that you can feel good about it. And the more you give your positive reinforcement and the communication is so clear with you and the dog, it just makes you feel better about it. And you're not, there's no remorse, there's no guilt. It's just all in for love for the dog. And the human gets to have fun with some technology and, precision technology that makes it so simple to just say, "Good job."
That's beautiful.
Yeah, we all need a little, "That's a good job."
Yeah, and that really segues into my next question, which is, how does it help make the world a more compassionate place?
Well, no matter what you're doing, the more kindness you're putting out there. There's a difficult thing in the world with trainers, is we have trainers that believe positive reinforcement, and then we believe the other side. And they also believe, I think, in positive reinforcement too. It's kind of like politics,
Right.
It can get messy.
Right.
And I think the compassion part is that we all can see just the instant good. And like I said, you feel good about it. Why not? I mean, there is no guilt, there is no remorse, and it doesn't change. It's hard to get positive reinforcement wrong, whether you're doing it with people or animals. It's hard to mess up.
Yeah, and something that you just said too, whether it's people or animals, because I feel like if you're, trying out this training tool or utilizing this training tool that is meant to have a more compassionate connection with, with your pet, you're also more inclined to be kinder and more compassionate with other people too. It's like, I want to have this good relationship with my pet, and it just connects and it snowballs to people.
It is. It's you're practicing it. So the more we
Exactly.
practice everything, the more we hope that we're doing it.
Is there anything that you want people to know about what you've learned in your volunteer work or in your work that we haven't shared yet?
I'd say in my volunteer work, I guess it's been a long time, but I kind of remember thinking, well, I have time. I could do this, and I had no idea that I would really be the beneficiary of the work, right? You think, you're doing this thing, but really it just kind of comes back, and it's more about the lesson and not the good works, I guess, so to speak. And
you benefit.
Yeah, and with work, every day I learn I don't know anything. I just keep going, wow, is that true? Is that possible? Can we do that? Is that, and there's always this, I'm fascinated. I never knew I would be fascinated by the engineer aspect or the technical, as much the technical side, but I'm constantly amazed at, and the people I get to work with, because I'm just a teensy weensy little part of what really happens. I feel really blessed and fortunate to be part of that. And I think it was a little bit bold, I think, considering what I was bringing to the table, to say I know I can bring something to the table. And wow, it's just kind of like the service dogs and the volunteering. I've been learning so much. I don't think I could ever repay what I found, found in the work.
That's beautiful. It just feels like it all fit really nicely together, and it continues to fit really nicely.
I hope so. Yeah, and there's just I don't know. I don't see an end in sight, so that's wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to share?
Oh boy. Just, I guess, about the positive reinforcement. And I would say that many, many decades ago, it was common not to use positive reinforcement. And I tried it. And I just, I didn't know there was a better way, a way that was better for me and the dog.
Yeah, people didn't know.
Yeah, and I'm just really hope that anyone would just be open to it, So it's not your typical. I'm not saying I think people are bad, or because I'm not a bad person. I used it.
Right. I think a lot of people just aren't aware that something like that exists yet, and you can't fault people if they don't know. But once you know, then maybe it's time to explore if there's a better way.
And I think I've seen trainers over the years that say, well, I used to, or I did it that way. And the more I did it this way, the better I liked it, the better the dog liked it, the better the people around us liked it. So I just say, give it a try.
That's awesome.
And I will say this is a little bit in the pet industry, I thought was epic, was that Petco decided to stop selling shock collars.
Wow.
That's on their profit margin. I mean, that's going to eat. That's a brand decision, and I remember I remember the day CVS stopped selling cigarettes, and I thought, what? Where are people going to get their cigarettes?
Yeah.
And that was a brand decision. They were in the wellness business, and I think this company decided they were in the pet wellness business, and they decided not to do it. And I think that we could all join that somehow, some way.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So where can we learn more about the Pet Tutor and you?
So pettutor.biz or smartanimaltraining.com.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. Before we officially say goodbye, Amanda, because I've learned so much, this has been great. This has been such a interest to me for so long, and to actually be able to speak to you and learn about Pet Tutor and to learn about your experience with service animals and, doing the volunteer work with the Poodle Rescue. It's just been wonderful. But before we go, I have a few quick announcements.
Sure.
For anybody who is interested in learning more about my upcoming films and upcoming interviews, you can find me at animalmagicfilms.com and join our community there. And if you are not yet a member of our Facebook group, The Science and Magic of the Human-Animal Bond, please join. And also this will also air on YouTube. And if you are not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, which is Animal Magic Films, please subscribe there as well. And if you have a human-animal bond story that you would like to share that would either do well on our website or potentially be considered for an interview like this one, please email me at diane@animalmagicfilms.com. So let's go back to you, because it's been all about you. So thank you, Amanda, so much for spending time today. This has been our first interview, and it's been lovely, and I'm really excited. And thank you for being willing to come out for my first interview. And you were like, yeah, sure, I'm happy to do it. You were totally cool the whole time. So.
Well, I really appreciate your time. It's in your expertise. I know this was your first time, but it's certainly not your first rodeo. So,
oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Thank you to everybody who's been spending some time with us and who will be spending time with us and watching this and future interviews as well. We will be back here next Tuesday, 2:00 Pacific time in the afternoon. So thanks again, everybody. Till then.
Thanks, Jen. Bye.
Bye-bye, Amanda.